Okay, jumping into Genesis chapter 17, quite an interesting chapter. God reviews his promised covenant and he clarifies it a little bit for Abram, and he kind of expands it somewhat, and he gives Abram a sign that will link and establish it from Abram's side. But God opens the door with just this incredible lineup of I will, I have, I will, I will, I will. So when you're reading through the passage where God is speaking to Abram, God is impressing upon Abram, not only I'm going to give you a new name, he's now going to be called Abraham. Abram means an exalted father. Abraham means father of multitudes. So a little different meaning there for them. And now Abram is not just the father of one son, Ishmael. God is saying he's going to be the son, or he's going to be the father of multitudes. And this is beyond expectation, beyond hope for Abraham at this point. He doesn't see that in his future. And Sarah struggles with it as well in this chapter. So God itemizes out all the things he will do. He has done, he's going to do, he will give them. You can kind of read that in the first 7 or 8 verses. He changes Abram's name, he changes Sarah's name to princess. From Sarai to Sarah, she's now princess. And God begins to present this beautiful future coming for them. Now, towards the middle of the chapter, looking there in verse 18, Abram is concerned because he's like, well, what about Ishmael? I mean, I hear all of these things you're saying. What about Ishmael, though? Bless Ishmael. God says, I've remembered Ishmael, and I have blessed him. If you look back in chapter 16, God's already given a word to Hagar about Ishmael and his future. Abram maybe wasn't aware of that. We're 13 years later from that moment in time in chapter 16. We fast forward 13 years, and now we're in the midst of Abram has a young teenage boy in the house. He's worried about his future if they have this new baby. God says, nope, taking care of him. I'm going to bless him. I remember him. And verse 21, but my covenant I will establish with Isaac. So God gives them the name for their son that's coming. They're to name him Isaac, which means laughter. And the promise, the covenant will continue from Abram through Isaac's line. And that's what God's establishing here. And then the sign of the covenant is circumcision. God's instituting circumcision as the sign of the covenant of the promise to Abraham that he'll be the father of many and multitudes. But this sign is specific. It's circumcision, and it's to reveal the sensitivity, the sensitive nature of man to God. Just kind of dive into that. Abraham, it says he was circumcised the same day as Ishmael, but he was 99 years old. Everybody in the household was circumcised to honor the sign of this covenant. So quite an interesting day there, I guess, in the household. But go ahead and dive into it, read through it. Good chapter. But this is where God establishes that the covenant will not pass through Ishmael. The covenant will continue through Isaac, and that's very important for a multitude of reasons. But specifically, Isaac is leading us to Jacob, leading us to the nation of Israel, the line of Judah, and ultimately to the Messiah.